and welcome to another episode of the Mostly Yelling Podcast. This week, I am joined by the legendary Dave Otero. That joke is going to make sense in about 2 minutes, but right now it just sounds like I'm being weird. It was a really great conversation. We talked about everything from Dave getting engaged during an aborted show at the Brutal Assault Festival to the first ever Flatline Festival that was held in Denver, Colorado this June and featured bands like Archspire and Cattle Decapitation and Aborted and Allegaeon and Nuclear Power Trio and pretty much every band that Dave has ever worked with. There was also an alternate reason for this festival, and I'll let Dave get into that in a little bit. And of course, we get into a little bit of the nitty-gritty behind the recent Archspire documentary that revealed that they actually hired a new drummer. The drummer got to the studio to record Archspire's new record, Too Fast to Die, and then it turned out that the person couldn't play any of the material up to the quality that the band thought they could. All right, intro Greg is going to shut up now and get to interview Greg. Let's go. Cool, all right, and I am joined this episode by the legendary Dave Otero.
The legendary.
Yeah.
I think you're the first one. This is hilarious to get right into this, but I think a story that you wrote said that it was from when I got engaged. And like the headline for the story was like legendary producer Dave Otero. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah, this is where it begins. And then I have another buddy of mine. I'm going to immediately call out Swedish producer Jacob Herman, who like was so triggered by that. He like felt, he was like, what the fuck, you're legendary now? He was like so impressed and also pissed off. And it's become a huge inside joke between me and him and my wife. It's pretty hilarious. You had no idea.
No, I didn't.
That the one you're just trying to make your headline sound nice. Maybe you didn't even write the headline. Who knows? Like sometimes that's like the editor's job or something. But yeah, that the one legendary addition to that headline has been indeed legendary.
and I'll tell you right now, I absolutely wrote that headline, and I think it's applicable. I mean, you've worked on quite a few very, very well-known records. You've been around for a really long time. I think legendary is apt.
Thank you. Well, I'll take it. I won't. I can't quite agree, but that's just my humble nature. Is what is the exact thing a humble person would not say.
Yeah, exactly right. I know I'm great, but like I don't want to flaunt it.
Yeah, I'm just downplaying this here, but actually I'm extra legendary.
Right, but when I go home, I look in the mirror and I'm like, God, I rule. I'm so good at this stuff.
Yeah, I do not feel that, but I try.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that kind of brings up a really funny point too. Was it intentional to get engaged at an aborted show? Like, did you think like, all right, what's like the funniest show I can get engaged at?
No. I mean, I realized that I'm working with what I got here. Is pretty much what it boils down to. My now wife had mentioned in the past that if I were to ever ask her to marry me, she would want it to be in front of a lot of people. She just like said that off the cuff, and I'm pretty sure her actual meaning there was like in front of a bunch of our friends, do it in a public place in front of friends, which I'm sure we had some friends there. But I was like, well, I was like planning this out, and I was like, what is the largest amount of people I could potentially have access to in the next 8 months or something? And at that point, we knew we were going to Brutal Assault, and we knew Aborted was playing, and so I asked them if they would be down with that, and those guys are just complete sweethearts. So of course they said yes, and it turned out pretty good. Yeah, I don't think she was expecting it right at that moment, and it was a lot of people for sure. I don't know, I'm not sure, 5,000, 8,000. So I had enough people to satisfy the quota, I believe. But yeah, an aborted show, and you get to just say a sentence that a lot of people didn't get to say, which is, hey man, I got engaged on stage at an aborted show. Yeah. What's your story? Not as cool, man. Sorry. Yeah, we had pyro too. That was like, I was afraid she was gonna think it's lame, because that's kind of lame. It's like, I just asked my friends. It's not like I had to do a ton of setup for it, and but she my wife Chelsea just like loves pyro. She's just a pyromaniac essentially. Like every time we go to a show of pyro, which doesn't happen very much in the States because like insurance and venues and stuff like that don't like that stuff. So it's kind of only outdoor fests or shows in Europe. She loves the fucking pyro. So I had arranged just as like a backup in case she thought like, oh, you just brought me on stage for Aborted and to ask me. I had Sven arrange with the festival to like have pyro that they didn't use for the rest of the set. It was only for the engagement. So then I asked her, and then the pyro went off, and it worked out. It was a good time.
That's awesome, man. And I'm sure that was probably a really fun ask of the festival and the band too, because everyone's probably like, "Oh my god, hell yes! Like, let's do this."
Yeah, they were stoked. I mean, I had to wire them quite a lot of money for 5 seconds of pyro, but whatever, it was worth it. But all like the photographers for the fest were there, and they knew, and it was pretty fun.
I didn't realize how much pyro cost until we were talking about like fireworks or something at some point, not for us, but just like in general. And you start looking into like the budgets of like pyro and firework, and it's like, oh my, like how does anyone have this?
Yeah, it was. I don't know. I just have this one frame of reference, and they were, by comparison, small pyro. You know, like they were like 6 to 10 feet jets. I mean, they were impressive on stage. But then you see, you know, at the very far end, like a Rammstein show or something like that, and it's like just ridiculous. They're like, it feels like these pyro jets are like 10 stories tall or something like that. And even like a lot of the bigger, like, you know, extreme bands, Behemoth and whatnot, have like really awesome pyro that like do all these cool movements and are super tall. And pyro is just fucking awesome.
I think on paper, I like the idea, but I think if I ever got on stage and they're like, all right, if flames are going to be shooting out of there and there, I'd be like, you know what, man, I'm going to hang out by the drums or something. Like, I'm good. I don't need this.
That's what Sven said, actually, when I asked him. I was like, have you guys ever done pyro? And he's like, no, man. Like, it's pretty cool, but I'm honestly a little sketched out by it.
Because, like, on one hand, you know, it's like, okay, fine. You got like they're gonna be like, all right, you know, during this song it goes on, whatever. But you know, sometimes you're in the moment, you forget, and that's not really something that you can forget about.
I would think that they like I don't know this firsthand, but I would assume that like part of that setup is to like have the team in place to like make sure everyone's away from the marked areas, and like there has to be like a safety guy that gives like the okay. Like there just has to be some rules to protect the performers, because like you said, like doesn't matter how practiced you are, and if you're having pyro, you're going to be on a big stage and it's going to be all taped out, I'm sure. But, you know, I mean, everyone remembers the Michael Jackson thing, you know, where he caught his hair on fire or something, right? So it can happen to the best of us.
Yeah, that and what was it? Hetfield. I can't remember when that was, but that was a nightmare too. So stay away from fire, kids. Unless you're getting engaged and everyone's cool with it, then, you know, go for it. Then you're fine.
Go.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So you had, speaking of live shows, you had the Flatline Festival. That was the first one that happened. I think it was this June, correct?
Yeah, this past June, just a few months ago now. Still coming down off of that. But yeah, it was quite fun. And like, I mean, not to make this whole freaking podcast about my engagement and wedding, but that was kind of like, that was sort of the culmination of that, actually, because half of the reason for and it's not like we've like kept this a secret, but it wasn't super forward for the festival side. But the festival was Saturday and Sunday, and our wedding was actually Friday. So the tangential reason for the fest was to get all the homies out, to get all our friends out. Like that was like kind of the real reason it happened this year and at that time. It's because I was like, all my friends are in bands, and all these bands come and they essentially live with us. Like there's my studio is like the studio's in one unit, my house, where I live is in another unit, and then there's a third unit which is like the band apartment, band accommodations. So when bands come and record here, they're here for 6 weeks, 7 weeks, and they essentially live with us. Like they have their own place, but we share a backyard. We work all day in the studio. We hang out in the backyard at night. We watch movies back there. We listen to music. So like, and that's all. This is essentially all I do is record bands. So my friends are the bands I work with. That's it. I don't really have outside friends. It's just I'm just in here all the time, hanging out with the people I'm tracking. So when we wanted all these people, and they're friends with not only me, but my now wife, because we all live together, you know? And we wanted all these people to to come to the wedding, but it's like, well, we don't want to have it like deep in the winter when bands are on touring breaks. We want to do it in the summer where it's warm out and it's nice and people can travel. But half the bands are going to be on tour. It's June, it's like prime touring season. So we figured the only way to, one, make sure that all our friends could come, and two, like, encourage them heavily to come, is to essentially pay them to pay them to come out. So we, like, when it boils down to it, we had to pay all of my friends to come to the wedding. But they all, it made it like workable for everyone. Covered expenses. Many of them brought out like wives and girlfriends and stuff like that. So it was quite the weekend. It was like the wedding was Friday. All of these dudes were here. And for black formal wear, and then Saturday and Sunday was a fest. So it was wild. It was a wild time.
Did anyone play your wedding, or was that reserved specifically for the festival?
No. Yeah, I was like, I figured we'll have enough music for the rest of the weekend, so we just had DJ and playing a good mix of some classic metal and some rock and some new wave, and fun party shit. No, we're not like cranking Beharit at our wedding or anything.
Right, like, hey guys, welcome to my wedding. It's gonna be super fun. We have the entire discography of Merzbow going in the background. Please enjoy. Drinks are over there.
Yeah, I wasn't that. It was quite fun though. I remember, I think Stevie from Inferi made the joke. He's like, dude, if someone just roadside bombed this wedding, it would just like end tech death. Like,
I
like it.
The headline is like tech death over : everyone at Dave Otero's wedding bombed. That was it. It was a good run, everyone. But okay, so with the festival, right? Was that what was the road leading up to that? Because I guess you kind of had to plan a festival and your wedding simultaneously. I'm sure it must have taken years off your life.
It had definitely, absolutely did. I'm like in the midst of like this like post-event depression right now, because it was like such a singular focus for so long, was the wedding and the festival, both of those together. And the wedding I expected, especially because we were planning on having a lot of people, and I know like my wife wanted to put a bunch of time into it and make it really cool and memorable, so I knew that would take a lot of time. The festival, I didn't quite realize just how much work that was. On top of that, like, we had planned fairly early on, like I made the initial connections because these are all like friends of mine, so I set the things up, and I talked to the bands, and then I transitioned through to their agents, and then made all the offers and all that kind of stuff, which I had never done before. I mean, neither one of us had even like put on like a local show ever. And not like this is the biggest festival in the world, but it was like 2 days, 12 bands, 1,000 people each night, and 8 bands, I think, traveling in from out of state. So it was a lot of organization. And we had planned beyond that to like, okay, well, we need to find someone with some experience to like advance this show and handle the production stuff and rentals and get all that sorted. And we tried to find a few people. We actually hired a person who, with a ton of experience, does this professionally for a big promoter here in town, and they just like totally dropped the ball. It was like weeks and weeks, but after they were supposed to even start advancing, they just hadn't done anything, and it got to the point where they just ghosted me completely. It was a very bizarre situation. I still have no like resolution as to what caused this, but there was a point where I just didn't hear from them, and I still have not heard from them. I had to like write them an email telling them that like, hey, just so you know, you don't represent the fest anymore. Don't send any emails. Like, you're fired, essentially. We never paid them money, so it's not we're out anything. But it did put us like significantly behind our timeline that we thought we needed to be on. And at that point, I was like, well, we're so behind now, I just have to do it myself. So the combination of that happening and just me like not really fully understanding the work that goes into putting on a festival like that was just a crazy amount of work that I think would be easier in the future, which we're working on now to keep this going. But the amount of emails, man, like I hate writing emails to begin with, and it was like 10 a day, like every day, like a crazy amount of emails. Yeah, it was intense, but it was like a good test I mean, I've been together with my now wife for like 12 years or something, so this has been well tested, but we hadn't quite done anything like this, and both of them were very much like joint ventures. Like, we were co-promoters in the festival, and she has her own, like, she runs her own business with like a bunch of employees in a warehouse, and she has she actually makes, she has a company called Foot Clothes. I'll toss it out right now. She makes like novelty socks, but they're like cool goth metal novelty socks. She actually did a line with Aborted, and she has some other metal collaborations coming up pretty soon. And she's in like 500 stores across the world. So she is a very business oriented person that is very capable. And so I knew that she's capable, and I do all the studios, all my own stuff, but we had never really done a business venture together. And the wedding planning is kind of already that. And then you add the festival on top of that. And it was pretty sick, actually. It was kind of like, it was like the one last test of our, glorious union that the passed with flying colors, because like we both just like crushed it, never doing this thing and just being sensible and working hard and being organized. The whole thing, I just saw Justin McKinney last weekend, actually, at Brutal Assault when he was on tour with Health, and we were like recapping it because Zenith Passage played the festival, and he was at the wedding also, and he was like, dude, I can't believe that like everything the whole weekend was just like so smooth. And I was like, honestly, I can't believe that either. But it really was, man. It just,
right now in retrospect.
Yeah, it was super fun. We went to a show last night, and a bunch of people I hadn't seen since then were like, dude, your festival was so fucking fun. It was awesome, man. It was a crazy amount of work, but like really satisfying seeing it all to come together, and with all of our friends, and the like emotional weight that the wedding adds, and seeing it was. I will have a tough time living up to that weekend for the rest of my life, but that's how it is. It was fucking awesome.
Well, and imagine too, I mean, like, on one hand, yes, it definitely sucks that the person that you were working with just kind of up and bailed for no real reason, but I would imagine it maybe makes it a little bit easier just because like you're reaching out as you and everybody knows who you are, so like, blessing and a curse kind of thing.
There's two sides of that coin, and I'm pretty used to, for the studio, I don't have a manager. A lot of other producers have a manager. I don't. I just do shit myself. So I'm pretty used to, and I think have learned to be pretty good at like mixing business and creative relationships. Like, granted, sometimes the business stuff I can handle with a record label, and then the creative stuff I can handle with a band. But at this point, a lot of the labels that I work with day in, day out, like Metal Blade, for instance, I'm really good friends with them too. So I have gotten good and gotten used to just like, okay, treating business situations with friends, like being fine with that, I guess. You just, like, I don't really think it's that hard. There's so many shady people in music. It's not that hard. You just have to, like, be upfront, set expectations, and be very clear with what you can deliver, what you can offer, and then just follow through. Like, it's not that difficult, but I did learn that, like, things are just different in the live realm. It's a little more cutthroat, I guess is a word. People are a little, like, shorter. People are a little territorial. There's a lot of stuff that surprised me a bit. And I will say I definitely prefer the vibes on the, like, recording side. It just seems like everyone's more chill, and as long as you just deliver and you don't cause any problems, then everyone is like super happy. And it's always just been really friendly and awesome. And I very, very rarely have like had contentious business situations with the studio side. And the live thing was a little different. And so there's two sides of it. It is a little, I think some bands are a bit hesitant to have a relationship with me, which they consider like friendly and creative, and then like invite me into this live world where maybe they have like this other side to them, where they're a little territorial and they get a little, what's the word? Entitled. There's plenty of entitlement in the live music space. And then between all the bands, it was interesting for me to see this other side of going from, okay, I just have these like really cool, friendly creative relationships with all these bands, and then I see how there's some competition, I guess, that I just didn't anticipate in the live space, because in the end, these bands are all essentially competing with one another for placement and guarantees and tours, and it's an interesting thing, and I think having these existing relationships both helps and hurts for the live thing in particular. And then at the same time, like, we did end up hiring like essentially a festival manager to handle like the day of stuff and the week of stuff, essentially, because especially since the wedding's the day before, it's like, well, I'm certainly not going to be answering texts from TMs like on my wedding day. So we need someone else to like pick up the slack in that last week. And then like for the day of operations, again, I've never done this stuff. Anything like weeks before, I can kind of learn on the fly, but if I don't know what I don't know, and if I make a mistake like on the actual event day and there's no time to solve it, I didn't want anything like that to cause a major issue for the actual event. So we did have like essentially a stage manager, festival manager that like was handling a lot of the technical stuff and receiving rentals, checking in with all the bands, handling some of the logistics, which we definitely required the day of, and we will do going forward. But it was interesting having this like other side of, getting a glimpse into the other side of the industry, which was some good, some bad, I will say.
Well, and I guess too, now you kind of have like that standard operating procedure in your head of like, okay, cool, moving forward for 2027, like this probably has to happen by this date. This guy was great, we'll call him. This guy's a dick, forget it.
For sure, yeah, so on. Yeah. I mean, there is like everyone in the live music industry is like your like CV, I guess, is your, what am I trying to say here? The experience is king, I suppose, and we just came into this with none. And that's not even like, it's not only like not really knowing the process or knowing how timelines work or what the general like methods of operations are. It's also like, okay, what, we're going to have some vendors. We need a backline vendor. We hired some like additional lights, like a production vendor. It's like, well, who are the good vendors? Like now I have to like call 8 different people and get all these quotes, where next year, like, oh, okay, I just have 2 quotes. Like, I know the 2 companies that are cool. I'll just call them. That will like already like cut down a ton of the time. The experience in this realm saves you a lot of time. And I would also build the whole advancing thing out way better. If I had more time and knew what that entire process looked like from the start, I could have started it in a much smarter way that would massively cut down on the amount of these fucking emails I have to send. So like I learned a lot, but it's difficult. It's a lot of work. Festivals are not like very smart from like a financial sense too, because like you have to pay bands a lot more than they would normally get if they're on a run, because their expenses are way higher. Like if you're just one date on a tour, everything's built in. Like they can expense their transportation across the whole tour. They're in a bus. Like they have a team they've hired for a month. They have their own backline that they bring with them. Many of the headliners will have their own like lighting package and production elements. Like when you invite a headlining band that has like a level of production they have to live up to, they have to bring all of that for one show. And like the logistics are insane. It's all the flights, it's all the gear, it's like all these rentals. Like, well, they have, they want these specific backline elements that they wouldn't just have with them if they're on tour. But if you're a festival promoter, you have to satisfy certain requirements, like whether that's like a person has an endorsement and they need a specific type of gear they have to play on stage. Like you have to like find that stuff. It's so much more work for just one show. It doesn't make any sense other than the fact that it's like way cooler, I think. Like
it's way cooler.
It's just like to go to a fest and you're like, holy shit, this is like this sick headliner and this is the only show they're playing. It's not just like one stop. It's just so much cooler.
Well, you had, I believe you had the live premiere of Nuclear Power Trio, right?
We did indeed. Yeah. Like, which was so much fun. And 2, like, I will never just stop giving them shit for like for a band with trio in their name, like the amount of people they had on stage at any one point, and like the list of the performers and crew was like 3 times any other band.
The nuclear power, like what, octet or something like that now?
Yeah, it's like the nuclear power small city. But and the same goes for their recordings too. Like I think the last record I had in my session, which I put everything in one session, so it's like it gets a little inflated, but I think I had like over 700 tracks for a trio.
Wow. I mean, like, I know their music kind of incorporates some other instruments and stuff like that. Like, I get it, but how the hell do you, 700 is so many.
It is a lot. It's quite a lot. And some of it is like my archival, like I'm going to save like drums before any kind of edits. I'm going to save those, and just turn those tracks off. So that's like 18 to 20 tracks, depending on the size of the kit. But then they had a full horn section on one song. And then, so that's like the section themselves. I think we did like 4 tracks, and there's probably 4 to 6 mics on each of those, not tracks, like 4 layers. And there's 4 to 6 mics on each of those. So that's 12 to 16. And then we had separate tracks where just like trumpets and so horn section was probably like 80 to 100. They had a harpist on a track, which I've never fucking mic'd a harp before. So I just went overboard and I put up like 8 mics like everywhere in the room, like just to like make sure I get what I needed. And then again, we did like multiple takes of that and layered some sections. So that's another, 40 or something like that. Acoustic guitar, same kind of thing. Sometimes I'll have 4 mics, 2 close mics, 2 room mics. So it adds up, but it is, for a band with trio in the name, there's like many layers, and there's very dense music. And without vocals, it kind of has to be, you always have to have like a lead instrument, and it was it was the same for them on stage. Like they had a 3 or 4 piece horn section for parts of the songs. They were people that were just actors, and wearing different masks like during the set. They had a whole video element. It was honestly, like, in a lot of ways, they stole the show. A lot of people were just blown away. Even people who had no idea, especially people who had no idea what the band was or their shtick or anything about them. It was extremely well done. And if this is their first show, and they could even get things dialed in further. And I don't even actually need that caveat, because like it was all pretty seamless. They could be a very, very fun, specifically like festival band, like the fest fans. And you know what I mean by like fest. There's a certain type of like festival fans, like Patch Vest dudes, and then like the subsidiaries of Patch Vest dudes and dudettes. And
bracelet people.
Bracelet people, or like the guy who dresses up like a wizard. Like there's always like a wizard guy or hot dog guy. Like these are like the fest people.
Jesus guy.
Yeah, they will lose their shit over Nuclear Power Trio. It was so fun. Like I was just like elated the whole time,
because they strike that perfect balance between like this ridiculous imagery and having so much fun, but then also you look at it and you're like, oh, but I could also never play any of this shit.
Yeah.
Like this is also impossible. And like, let alone to play on stage, which is okay, that's already adds a layer of like impossibility. And then to do it with these masks that are extremely realistic looking, but not at all easy to see or breathe in. Like they, I asked them to do it fully expecting them to say no, and they agreed, knowing that like they had no idea how possible it was going to be. Like the stuff that they write, I'll call out Nick specifically. I mean, Putin is so unbelievably difficult to play in the studio. It's like when we're tracking that stuff, we're just like cackling about how ridiculous every part is, and then the next part comes in and it's like even more ridiculous. And like just to play it in a row, like, in the studio we're doing bits at a time, is difficult. And then, like I just mentioned, you add all those elements, and the fact they pulled it off was crazy, man. Like with the masks and with like the full production, I know they were put a lot of time
and a lot of work into that. And hopefully it like proves what's possible, and then they can go and take that and like play a bunch of other fests like I mentioned, and make it worth it to them, and they can, you know, one, have fun, like give fans of the band the chance to see it live, which I think many people didn't think would ever happen, and two, just like go make some money, man, because it was extremely entertaining, and I hope that they can like keep that going, you know.
Were there any bands for the festival that you wanted on the 2026 edition that you didn't get, or was that just kind of like you had the bands that you knew and, you know, moving forward?
There were a few, and I probably won't name anyone just because certain things didn't work. There was a couple of bands that I had talks with going that I did want, and they for totally, you know, reasonable reasons in most cases just weren't able to make it. But that's fine, because especially if I'm going to keep doing this, like I kind of already did like blow it all on year one. Like, you know, like I don't have many, like, not that going forward it has to be all bands I've worked with. That would just not be possible. But this first year it was, even like the I hesitate to call them local bands because none of them are even local bands, but the opening bands that are from Colorado, I have worked with in some capacity, you know, Glacial Tomb, Necropanther, even Clusterfucks, like 15 years ago, we were doing stuff together. So like I'd worked with every single band, which was very cool and kind of difficult to do. And I just don't have, I'm like almost out of bands, so I won't be able to do that in the future. But I like that has like the name of my studio on the fest, and it's so tied in that I still want to make that like a central point. So having a few bands like not able to come and do it is like just makes it a bit easier for me for these future years to like still keep it tied in. Where I think one of the reasons why people enjoyed the festival so much is because all of these bands like Cattle and Archspire, I'll just talk about. I've done, you know, now 3 albums with Archspire, 4 or 5, I can't remember, 4 or 5 with Cattle. And they have spent so much time in Colorado. Like Cattle I've lived with all of Cattle for a year of my life, like separated across a couple albums, about a year. And that means they're practically Colorado citizens, you know, like we go to shows, we go out to eat, like metal fans in Denver start to like view these bands almost as like from Colorado. Like they take some ownership in it, which I think is cool. And then to put all those bands together in one show, I think some people saw it as a little more than the sum of its parts, I guess, because of the connections that these bands have formed in Colorado doing records here over the years. So I want to like keep that going forward and try and center it around not only bands that I work with, because that's like personal to me, but like those are my personal reasons. Also bands that have just spent a lot of time in Colorado, and we go go see other shows, and people are, holy shit, that's Travis from Cattle Decapitation, and it becomes this cool thing, you know, of like for metal fans in Denver to see, you know, musicians they like and stuff like that hanging out, like not at a show they're playing.
Right, like just hanging out in the crowd, and like like it becomes like your spiritual home in a way, you know. Like there are just certain places where it's like, oh, I've been there so many times that I could just get off the plane or get out of the car, and it's like, oh, like I already know where to go, I know who to call, like, and we're all good.
Bands just love Denver too, man. I think Denver has a bit of an underappreciated scene, and maybe it is becoming more appreciated now with some of the bands that have been making big waves, like Blood Incantation and stuff like that, But I think even as like from what all the bands tell me, like Denver is just like one of like the best shows on the tour. And even like, you know, bands are out there trying to make money too. Like, let's not like mince words here. That has to be there for these bands to do it. And Denver is like a crazy good merch day. That's what everyone says. They're like, dude, Denver is often one of the best, or not the best, merch day on the whole tour. Like over LA, over New York, over some of the big markets, Denver fans just come out, they go crazy like all week long, Tuesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, like and they buy shit. Like Cattle had what's the word I'm looking for? A festival specific shirt design, exclusive. There you go, found it. And they announced it. And Cattle they have handled their merch well over the years, and it's like they do well with merch. They're a merch band, as someone would say. They I think brought like a standard, like 144 I think is like a run or whatever, and they sold out of those in the first hour. Doors are open.
Oh my god!
144 shirts in the first hour, and then they put up like a pre-order. They put the shirt up through Indie Merch, so people who missed out could order it. And like, I wanted to like spill too much of their details, but sold many more in the days after the fest. I think in theory, I think Malcolm told me that they like had their best merch day ever at the fest. Like, so like Denver is just a really good scene for that kind of stuff anyway. And then I guess just I got the vibe that people like sort of thought this fest was like they could take a little more ownership of it. Maybe just because it wasn't like AEG or Live Nation like hosting something and bringing a bunch of bands that don't have Colorado ties. Like, I don't know, man. I felt really cool. And I think people like appreciated it above just like what the bands were. And it made like seeing that live and feeling that live and hearing that from people like gave me a lot of pride too. Because I mean, I obviously like it was like crazy emotional for me. It's all bands I've worked with. Like it's essentially like everything I've been doing in music for 25 years, like all in one night, plus the wedding. It was just crazy emotional. I don't know how I fucking made it through the entire weekend, honestly. But I felt like other people enjoyed it in like also above an average type of way, which was really cool. It was quite satisfying.
And there's also like that kind of underlying feeling of no matter how good you think it's going to be, you're always like, no one's going to come to this. It's going to suck. It's going to be really bad. And then, and then the day of, you're like, oh, never mind. This is awesome. Like, this is fantastic. But like just that self-doubt like just kind of creeps in. And it's like, oh God, please let me be wrong.
Yeah. In the beginning too, because it's like, these are all my friends, but this is also their business. So like things were done like in a business manner, which means that we're like writing offers and signing contracts that we have to pay these bands amount of money, even if no one comes. So you start off, when you're planning something like this, you start off like, okay, many, many, many thousands of dollars, like, in the hole. And then you just kind of have to hope that it works out. And I, again, just not having the experience, I wasn't sure. Like, and I will say that I probably got some nice deals, maybe it was the wedding guilt trip, or the fact that, hey, this is my first year, I'm a little baby festival producer, and like, be nice to me, I mean, agents don't give a fuck about that shit, let me tell you, but the bands do, and they kind of helped facilitate probably some better deals than I would guess other people would get, which eased some of that, but it's still a large commitment. And my wife and I, Chelsea, were like, well, it's going to be a little bittersweet if this works out, but in the end we're like paying $20,000 to for all these people to come to our wedding, and like it's just all on our plate and nobody goes to the show and the whole thing bombs. That will sort of sour the weekend. And very luckily it didn't happen. We managed to essentially, we sold out both nights, and the venue was like perfectly packed. It wasn't like you could still move, but it felt like a fucking firecracker, it panned out, and we didn't lose any money, and all the bands made money, and I think we're happy. And even if they gave us a deal on the guarantee, they all sold a bunch of merch, so I think everyone went home happy.
Nice. And I know you had said that you're looking forward to doing possibly another edition next year. Yeah,
that is a plan. We're like working on that now. It's still fairly early. I'm finding, well, one, I kind of like I mentioned, I like sort of burn through all of the obvious choices from my end, where I have a little bit extra, a little extra power to get these bands to agree, so I'm spreading out a little bit further, and I'm finding that the yeses aren't coming quite as easy as they maybe did the first year, but that's fine, and everyone's busy, and I understand that. So nothing is completely confirmed yet, but we have some plans in place, and I really hope it comes together because it was quite fun.
Are there any like local Colorado bands that you want to book for next year that are totally kick-ass?
I haven't thought about that too much yet. There definitely are, but I'm kind of like I've sort of learned like the way you build these is like, okay, you find a date, you find a venue, you build your headliners first, and then you kind of like fill in the slots underneath that. And a lot of that is because those headliners are going to have like commitments that are like booked further out, so you have to like get those in place, and they tend to like sort of, the top of the billing is just really like where you can most appropriately like estimate how many tickets you're going to sell and what kind of venue you need to like place the show in. So trying to get that settled first, and then assuming that I can or we can, we'll fill out the like the rest of the bill like to follow suit. Trying to, and I want it to be. I still want it to even in the future. There's no way it could be all bands that I work with. I'll just run out of bands. I still want it to feel fairly curated, and be bands that I like and be bands that I think pair well together. And that's not even like they have to be the same style. That just like, I don't know, man. I guess I just want to look at the bill and be like, holy shit, yeah, I'd for sure go to that. So like,
right, I would pay for this.
Yeah, if I feel that, then I think I have some confidence that other people would feel the same way and want to go and have a good time, and it would and have it be something to live up to my now legendary headline status, I suppose.
Legendary Dave presents.
I'm going to send this podcast to Jacob right away. As soon as he releases it, I can be like, dude, hey, Jacob, check out this new podcast. I think you might find it interesting.
He said Legendary Dave every time. He also said you suck. He doesn't even know you, which is crazy, but he was really mean about it, actually. It was kind of messed up.
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, but whatever. He's a professional.
But listen, shit happens. What are you gonna do? But well, I think going back to your point about like a diverse lineup too. I think like I can't think of anything in Colorado that has that. I mean, Fire in the Mountains is up north in Montana or whatever that is. And I mean, Prepare the Grounds is in Canada, and Roadburn's the other one that comes to mind, and they're in the Netherlands. So like having that kind of like metal tangentially related sort of stuff, I think works really well. Like people seem to be really, really into that.
Yeah, a lot of stuff kind of dark, and you can get some kind of like, holy shit, that band, like as long as there's one or two of those, I feel like it'll do well. And like the Farther Mountains actually is now, they just announced like a Colorado edition that they're doing at the Stanley Hotel, which is quite cool. And those guys are awesome, honestly. And Fire in the Mountains has a lot of Colorado ties. Like the main person who books a festival is here in Colorado. Been a friend of mine for a long time. And I kind of just recently met in a more deep way, I guess, Jeremy and Ollie, the two like owners, I guess. And we hung out a bit at MDF. And they are just like totally rad people and doing it for the right reasons. And I had a lot of interesting conversations with them. Like, again, Chelsea and I being like just getting into this, when we hung out with them, it was like a week or a month or two before the fest, or maybe a month, before the fest. And getting their perspective on things and learning about like some of the business behind it and just how they think about it was pretty inspiring. What they're doing is crazy. Like, this little fest we did is nothing compared to any kind of one outdoor festival. Like they have to build the entire thing from nothing. It's a field, that's it. They start with a field. They have to hire the entire stage. All of the vendors have to bring all their stuff in, all of the security, everything has to come in from outside sources. Where when you just like have a festival at a venue, like you get to skip so much stuff. Like the venue's there, they have their staffing. Typically the venue's can hire security. Like the sound's there. If you want to add to it or you want to add to production, okay, sure. But like the basic elements are there. Having to plan a fest like that where you have to bring everything in is like a mind melting amount of work, I would imagine. because now that I know how much work it is just for this one, like, that's a full-time gig. I remember I told like 2 or 3 months before the fest, I was chatting with Dean from Archspire, who, like, I'm good friends with all these bands, but me and him go back and forth a lot. They're kind of going through a similar thing, becoming a newly independent band, of having to learn a lot of new skills, so we were kind of like commiserating there. But yeah, Archspire being a professional band for a long time, they played a lot of these festivals, and they had a more in-depth knowledge of how it all works and the amount of like logistical work involved. And I hit him up. I was like, oh man, I can see how this is a full-time job, because I'm here trying to like work in the studio and do this stuff. And it was like, I was kind of drowning in it for a bit. And he's like, actually, that's incorrect. It's like 6 full-time jobs.
Right. It's actually worse than you think.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, you're right.
Well, and you had quite the interesting experience with Archspire lately. That documentary just came out, I think, earlier this week. This is being recorded in like mid-August.
Yeah.
Did anyone know about that drummer situation prior to that documentary coming out? I mean, obviously you and the band. But.
Yeah, other than like some other industry, I know some other band members that knew, and I had like, it's not like we were like keeping it a secret, but they hadn't like publicly announced anything about that for a lot of reasons. One, they're just trying to stay focused, and two, like, it wasn't the time, I guess, and it was wild. I had never experienced anything like that. Like, shit like this happens, like, back in the 80s with like cock rock bands with like $1 million budgets, and everyone's just on coke and there's hookers everywhere. Like, studio experiences were different then, but these days, like, there's not just like free money around like there were in music in the past. So like in the studio, you have to be like all business, like it's not like, it's just not a party. It's like you're here to work, and like every day you have to be efficient. It's like you have a very tight schedule you need to stick with, and you have a limited budget, and everyone, me included, are trying to maximize that to like provide the best product for the band. So having something like that, like go massively awry, and having to like completely kind of blow the whole thing up and figure out how to proceed forward, I had never really dealt with that before. It was slightly fun, but probably less so. I don't know. It was expensive for everyone, like me included, and the band. So there were downsides to it, but in the end, it was a fun experience to go through that, and to like test, myself and ourselves and them, like as far as surviving a kind of a disaster like that, honestly. But it was quite stressful at the time.
Now, and there was something I didn't fully understand in the documentary, and maybe this is just my lack of knowledge for studio stuff, but I was watching it, and somebody had brought up that like it's kind of difficult to track to program drums and then to go back and record drums, I guess, afterward. Why is that?
It's not difficult. It's just not typical. And there are some benefits, and like they kind of showed a little bit of this in the documentary. I actually just rewatched I'm doing Nail the Mix this month with an Archspire song, which like maybe some people are familiar with Nail the Mix. It's like a music production school kind of thing, I guess. It's a subscription you pay, and then you get to watch people like mix songs and learn about the album and get the stems. So because I'm doing that, I've been revisiting that session, and then also the AL, one of the owners of URM, and who is like the host of their YouTube channel, has been doing these reaction videos to studio documentaries, which is kind of cool. And I find AL's one of my good friends, so I like to just like watch his retakes, even if it's a documentary I've seen or I haven't seen. He just essentially watches the documentary and then pauses it to give his like alternative take on stuff, like as another person who's been a producer and has just been around that industry. So I rewatched his take on this documentary just like a few days ago, which was fun to see again. And then the documentary itself is fairly fresh, but it's just not like typically you would come in, my normal workflow, the band gets here, we do an amount of pre-pro, we take their demos, we load them in, we tweak things. Sometimes we're adding sections, removing sections, arrangements, tempos. Even if we have an idea for the future, we'll jot it down. It's just like brainstorming essentially. And then you go right into drums. You have your tempos down, you have your basic song structures as far as you think they should be. And then you just lay down drums and then you stack everything on top of that. Drums are sort of like that foundational element. They provide a lot of the energy that everyone else like feeds on as we're tracking. So doing program drums first, well, this is like more common and simpler forms of metal, or more, I guess, mainstream forms of metal, because it provides more flexibility. Like once drums are tracked, if you decide to extend a part or change a part, it's pretty difficult. Unless you were going to go back and re-record drums, it's pretty difficult. You're limited by what was actually recorded. You can't like change a fill, for instance. So it's recorded that way. So it gives you some flexibility, which is kind of nice when you're trying to go for that like picture perfect radio thing. You can just really dial in every little rhythmic detail and tweak the tempos and add a turnaround or change a fill. But for extreme metal, you want that energy to like track the rest of the album too, I guess, more so. And honestly, like even just the time it took to reproduce these drums as like MIDI drums was like days. I had my assistant Mike do that, and he probably spent like 4 or 5 full days just programming the drums, because I have to, like, you can't just like half-ass it. Like again, it's what you're listening to for a month, and all of the details need to be there, and the accents need to be there, because everything feeds off everything else. Like a cymbal pattern that's in the drums is like affects the way you play the guitar riff, and it also maybe, hey, well, let's match this is cool drum thing here, let's like match that with this specific guitar run or turnaround. And when you don't have the actual drums there, it's like, well, sure, let's do that, but now we have to like make sure that this exact feel survives like the actual drums, and if not, okay, does this sound as cool? Do we need to go back? It felt a little like it was harder to make definitive decisions throughout the entire process, not knowing what the final drums were, because Archspire is such a rhythmic band. As with a lot of like technical death metal, like the drums are a highlight. So it worked out fine, and I think the album sounds sick as hell. But it was just a new experience for me, and certainly for them. And then like on top of that is just like the stress of, is someone going to be able to play these drums? Like it was a lot of uncertainty, kind of like overshadowing the entire process. And then when Spencer finally got there and just like crushed it, it was like, oh, okay, everyone could like breathe, and like weights were just like brushing, everyone just felt like a lot lighter, and it was nice. But most of the album was recorded before that, like almost the entire album. I think after drums we did like 2 songs of vocals and like a few guitar things. So most everything was recorded before drums.
And yeah, like you said too, I mean, like Ollie's vocals alone are just like, I've seen countless videos of that man tracking. I don't get it. I do not understand. Yeah. It's inhuman. Like, is he a person? Is he a real person? Like flesh and blood?
He is indeed a real person. Yeah, it is. It is wild, and how much he has to focus on, like rehearsing the lines to like get the muscle memory, because your mouth has to move so fast. And like I've told the story a few times, but it happens every single album. Like typically when I start recording vocals, I have my session up here, and then almost these days always I'll have a Google Doc with the band with their lyrics, and I kind of put that on my screen to the side, and I'm like looking at their lyrics, and it's a Google Doc, so I can make a change and they can see it, or I can make a note, or I can highlight a section, or we can color code a part. Just a good way to stay like give some constant communication on the lyric sheet between me and the performer. And as they're performing, part of my job is to make sure that they're like enunciating properly, and like they're not fucking up words. Like some vocalists will change a word, and then sometimes they'll, like, without realizing it, sing the old one, you know. So like I'm constantly trying to like follow along as they're performing, and this is take after take after take. It takes, for Archspire records, it takes me probably a full day for my brain to be able to read fast enough. Like while I'm listening, because I'm doing a lot. I'm like listening to the performance. That's like paramount, obviously, is what it sounds like. But then I'm also trying to like read along at the same time, and I can't. Like I remember being like flabbergasted when we started doing vocals on the first time I worked with them. I was like, I can't read. Like I can't keep up. What the fuck? This is crazy. I've never had the experience of not being able to read lyrics fast enough. I start and I'm just get lost, and I'm like, fuck.
Right.
I go, oh well.
Scrolling to like page 4 and he's still on the first bar, and you're like,
yeah.
What? I remember when they released, what was it, Relentless Mutation, like 10 years ago or something like that now. And I remember when that came out, and I remember the first time I heard it, I got the promo, sat down, listened to it, and thought, no way. This has got to be like studio magic. They're like, nobody, you can't do that. That's insane. So immediately just went to YouTube and just started looking up live videos. And I'm like, get out of here. No way. Like, oh my God. Like, this is wild.
Yeah, they crush it live too. And every album they push themselves, they've kind of, you know, for better or for worse, they've placed themselves in this trap of being known as, like, I mean, they market it, you know, the fastest band in the world or whatever. That creates a bit of a tax. Every album, you got to like push things a bit further, and like, you know, I love them, but they're only getting older. Like, holy shit! Like, there will be a time and place where like they can no longer go any faster. And we haven't hit it yet, but we're starting to, at least I'm starting to feel it a bit. And it's like, oh man, things are so fast now. Like some of the vocal shit is so fucking fast. We'll see what happens next time.
Well, and you read like interviews with like Paul Mazurkiewicz and Tomas Haka and all them, and they're just like, yeah, dude, we don't play some songs because I'm 60.
Yeah,
just can't do it anymore. And
for sure.
But you know what though? I don't know. Maybe Archspire just has like the second leg of their career, and they're like, listen, we're just gonna do all like super slow death metal, just real chunky, like, because those guys can write a melody, man. I'll listen to it. You know, they have they've done an amazing job at like taking this like crazy fast technical music and then wrapping these melodic themes on top of it, and these catchy parts. Like they think about it the right way too. Like even in the studio working with them, I was like, okay, I got the idea fairly early on that this band would have a high ceiling because of the way they thought about music. And it was like, sure, very technical, but that wasn't like the only goal. There are some technical death metal bands that get stuck in that trap of like, everything just has to be the craziest thing. And that is fun. And musicians love it, but you will reach a certain point where it's like, well, if it doesn't have, you got to have like, there's some basic elements of music of just a catchy rhythm or like an earwormy melody. You kind of got to have for people who just don't like, you know, stare at like tablature all day to like actually enjoy. And they have that. They manage to like perfectly mix both, which allows them, I think, to reach a little further out than like your typical tech death band. So they certainly could. Like, I think that band could just do anything they want. Like they are so professional and talented and intelligent about music and business. Like they kind of got the whole package. It's almost, I'm thankful and also a little bit sad that one thing didn't make it into the documentary, and it's just hilarious because throughout the process we're kind of doing with the filmmaker, we're doing interviews, you know, like he'll like a couple times ask everyone some questions, have a sit down about the process where we're at. And before we got during pre-pro, before the whole drummer thing happened, I'm doing my interview, and he's asking me like, "Are you worried about this happening? You know, like you were like the new drummer, no one's heard him play, no one's played with him. Are you worried about this?" And I was like,
No, not really, man. It's just like everything always works out for Archspire. And it's like they're just really smart dudes. They make good decisions, and like everything just works out. And and then, like 3 days later, in the midst of like everyone's world crumbling around us, like those words are like echoing in my head. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna look like such a fucking idiot in this documentary.
Just going up to the filmmaker and be like, listen, man, I fucked up. You gotta cut that, okay?
I thought for sure he would use it. Like I've for sure thought, I was like, oh, there's gonna be this like a reverb on it, and the screen's gonna go black and white and zoom in on my face. Like, gonna make me out to just a fucking total buffoon. Yeah. But he had mercy. He had mercy on me.
Why is this documentary 2 hours long? Oh, it's 35 minutes of dunking on Dave. Cool.
Yeah. But, honestly, man, in the end, I was right, because despite that, the way the band handled it was just like the only way you can handle a situation like that. And everything now is fucking great, and the band's doing amazingly. The album's good. Everyone loves it. The documentary is just more interesting for it. So I just do have a lot of respect for those guys, and not only their musical prowess and like them as people, as my friends, but like also how impressive they've managed to like handle the band as a business, and then now going independent. Like the Kickstarter thing, like just wildly successful, crazy. And then managed to like not make that a fucking debacle like every other metal Kickstarter has like just ended in controversy. Yep. And they were so determined to like, they're like, we have to like, we understand why people are hesitant about this type of thing, because there are only so many saunas that need to be built in the world, or whatever the fucking story was with like Winter Sauna, and they're like, we're fighting it. We're starting like behind the curve. But I think like in large part they managed to like fulfill everything in a professional manner. Everyone was happy, and like people got what they expected. They just handle their shit.
Maybe they needed a sauna to finish a record that sounds like it was. Dude, listen, I'm just gonna whatever. And you don't have to say anything else, but for years I was so excited for Time 2, dude. I was so stoked, and he's finally like, listen, it's done, it's coming out, and I'm like, hell yes, let's go. We finally got it. And I listened to it. My first thought was, this sounds like it was recorded and mixed and mastered decade ago. Like, this is just not good. But yeah, I mean, like and it's a shame. I mean, like, do you remember there was a band in California called Corellia, and that was like the big debacle of like, they raised like $100,000 and they were going to do a double album, and you can get free tickets to a show and everything, and they took that money and they didn't put out shit. So to see Archspire just get out there and say like, listen, we're gonna do this, and to kill it like that is phenomenal.
Yeah, and I just knew they would. Because those guys have put out their entire lives into that band, like most bands. Like this isn't like a thing you do to at a level to where Archspire is. It's not just like your side gig. It can't really ever be. It has to be like the thing that you think about and put all of your work into. So you could, like, if they were to not deliver, they would throw all that away. Like, the band would be trashed. Like, I don't know that you could continue, especially without a label. So you have to. So, and I just knew that, like, because of that, they would. And I also know that they're capable to do it in a way where, even without all the experience that, like, a label would have, and all these other entities that typically do this work would have, like, I just knew they would do a good job at it. Pick the right artists and keep things on time and communicate well and handle delivery, figure out how all that works. Like, I can only imagine. Like, I mean, I felt the same way, like I was saying earlier, Dean and I were talking about the similarities of us trying to do this festival for the first time and them trying to release this album at the first time. And I just know from my experiences, like, so much new stuff. But in the same way that they couldn't like drop the ball because their entire like livelihood and everything they've worked for in their entire creative career is wrapped into it. It's kind of this was sort of the same for me. It's like the festival is like deeply tied to like me as a producer, to my studio. It has the same name as a studio, and every band on it are all the bands that I've been working with for 20 years, like all of my biggest bands. So like there's no way it could be a terrible experience for any of the fans or any of the bands, because it would hurt me double. It's not like I could just be like, oh, well, that sucked, I guess I just won't do a fest anymore. Like, no, it's like tied to literally everything that I've worked for my entire life, like in music. So it had to be good. And I would, every person we'd brought in on the festival side that was going to help us out, like, you know, doing the show promotion shit, or the person we tried to hire to do the advancing, I try to explain this to them too. It's like, I get it. It's not super important to you, but for me, this has like everything I've worked for tied up into it. If it fails, it reflects poorly on me in like every aspect of my entire life, including like what I do to like earn money and live, you know, which is like at a fundamental level, like it just has to be fun and good and go smoothly. It has to. More so than just some guy who's like, oh, let's just do a fest, who doesn't have all these ties into it, you know? And it's a similar situation for Archspire. It's like, we've put our entire lives into this. If we drop the ball, like, it would be such a big tarnish, you know, that I don't know that they would be able to recover.
Yeah, because you're shooting for something much higher, and missing is a very, very big problem. Yeah, no, absolutely, man.
Yeah, and without the safety net too, you know, they talked about that in the documentary as well. It's like the record label sort of like adds that safety net element, like some of the financial like risk is on the label. You also can lean on like their experience with vendors and handling delivery. They have this whole system, you know, for distribution and PR. All that stuff's in place. Like, it makes a lot of sense. Like, I like, obviously record labels need to be there, because most bands probably aren't quite capable in the business sense to manage it all themselves. And they just have that experience, and there's absolutely value there. But to forego all of that and put it all on the line, and then ask people to like contribute, it's a big responsibility and a lot of work. But I didn't really have any doubts that they would be able to crush it.
No, they did a great job. They really did. Cool, man. Well, I will let you get back to your day. But before we go, something I always ask everybody: what have you been listening to lately? Turn some people on to some cool stuff.
What have I been listening to lately? I just discovered a band. I think it's called Ruum, and it's one of the Mayhem dudes. I'm gonna fuck up his like black metal name. I don't think it's Necro Butcher. I'm not gonna. It is one of the guitar players who I can tell now was very instrumental on the sound for some of my favorite Mayhem records, like Grand Declaration of War, like that mid period that a lot of people don't love, but I love. And I think the band is called Ruim, Ruim, I believe, and it's fucking awesome black metal. Like, just came up on like a Spotify radio random thing and was just kind of blown away. So been jamming that a little bit recently, but honestly, most of the music I listen to is what I'm working on. So a downside of my job is like casual music listening just doesn't happen nearly as much as like it probably would, because I'm like, I'm honestly, my ears are just fucking exhausted by the end of the day. So a lot of what I listen to is like podcasts, and you know, occasionally if I'm trying to get work done, I'll put on some like a lo-fi or something that I can just like sort of tune out, because because of my job, like casually listening to music almost isn't possible. Like, my brain just immediately starts like analyzing everything. So it's sort of, yeah, like being a producer like sort of ruins listening to music in certain aspects.
Right, you're listening to something, you're like, man, I would have miked that differently. Hold on.
Yeah. And it's more just like you're like, oh, that's a cool riff, or like analyzing like the you know, structure of things and just like the way the song sounds overall. I don't care too much about like the technical parts of production anymore. I definitely did a lot more when I was younger, and I've kind of gotten past like caring too much about that. I definitely love when something sounds massive, but if it sounds just like passable, like that's fine with me usually. But yeah, that's a band I found recently, even though I think they've been around for a while, but it was very good black metal. Yeah, and then like I guess I'm mixing this Aborted record, so I've been listening to a whole lot of Aborted recently.
That's not a bad thing. And maybe does your wife come down and listen to it too? Now that you guys got engaged at the Aborted show.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, I mean my wife's like full on metalhead, so yeah, it works out very well.
Cool, man. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today, dude. I really, really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you inviting me, man. It was a good chat, good fun.
Hey, thank you so much for listening to the Mostly Yelling podcast. I am and continue to be into eternity, Greg Kennelty. And you can find me on Substack at mostlyelling.substack.com. You can find this podcast obviously on Podbean and on all streaming services. And you can find my harsh noise ambient, whatever you want to call it, Project Disintegration Annex also on all streaming services. Alright, that does it for me. I am going to go try to figure out why the 1/4-inch headphone jack on my tape player doesn't work anymore. I will see you all next week.